Hey guys, back again, and this time it's a new deck profile video today. As you can tell by the title, it's Lightsworn Dinosaurs. I know what you're wondering, dinosaurs again? Well, dinosaurs are cool, dinosaurs are very splashable as well. And this time I decided to build it towards a Lightsworn engine. This deck is surprisingly really fast, and honestly it's one of my new favorite dinosaur variants now, besides the Lair of Darkness one that I did the other day, because I think that one was really great too. But I think this one by far is probably the best out of all the dinosaur decks I've done because, again, this deck is surprisingly fast. So, let's get right to it. This deck is running about 44 cards, just because, the Lightsworn engine really helps this out a lot. And you'll be milling through cards, like, fast, too. So starting off with, you got 3 copies of Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. Again, this guy's your Book of Eclipse. You pop one monster on your hand or on the field, and flip all your monsters in face-down defense. And whenever he attacks, he can attack all monsters, and if he attacks a monster that's in defense mode, he sends the card to the graveyard, he doesn't destroy it, and you inflict 1,000 points of damage to your opponent. So this guy has a really unfortunate effect, especially because, your opponent can't trigger off any destruction effects. So yeah, definitely run it at 3. You're going to be able to get a lot of these out on the field, and trust me, it works. Of course, you run 2 copies of Overtex Quatless. Get this guy sent to the graveyard, and you could add a double evolution pill, but to answer any questions though, no, it does not work if you use cards like Charge of the Light Brigade. If you mill him with the 3 cards that requires it, that is a cost effect. So you will not be able to add double evolution pill if you send him by a cost effect or like Twin Twisters. However, you can get double evolution pill if you send him through the effect of Soul Eating Oviraptor or Foolish Burial. So just keep that in mind. Or if you do the in-phase effects of the Lightsworn monsters that require you to mill cards, because that's not cost. You can definitely add a pill through that effect. But yeah, Charge of Light Brigade or Solar Recharge will not allow you to add a double evolution pill if you pitch Overtex Quatless that way. So just bear that in mind. Of course, you run 3 copies of Soul Eating Oviraptor. It's at 3. It's not limited or anything, so definitely run this at 3 because this guy can search out your Ultimate Conductor Tyranno and pitch your Overtex Quatless just so you can get your free pills. And yeah, it's just really great. Next up, we got Giant Rex. Since we are running Fairy Tale Snow, if you banish it, you could special summon him once per turn that way. And also, we also run Gold Sarcophagus too, so it also helps with rank 4 plays real easily. Next up, of course, we got 1 Miscellaneous Source. Gotta have 1 at least, And then, of course, Direct Halo. You could also do Glow Up Bulb if you wanted to, but since I don't have an extra right now, the other one's sitting in my Blue Eyes deck. I'm just using with what I have, so Miscellaneous Source and Direct Halo are like my alternative choices right now. And plus, Direct Halo is pretty simple to bring out as long as you run the Miscellaneous anyway. So yeah, definitely run it. Alright, so moving on to the Lightsworn engine, we have 3 copies of Raiden. Amazing guy. This guy, once per turn during your main phase, you can send the top 2 cards of your deck to the grave. And if any of them are Lightsworn monsters, he gains 200 attack points until the end of the turn, or until the end of your opponent's turn. And also, during the end phase, you have to mill the top 2 cards. But he's also a level 4 tuner, so it also helps with some synchro plays. So yeah, definitely run him at 3. Next up, we got 3 copies of Wolf. Since you'll be doing a lot of milling, if this guy gets milled by an effect, you could do special summon him from your graveyard back to your side of the field. So it's really good for that. And the fact that he doesn't mill cards himself, he's just a really good 2100 beat stick. But note that he cannot be normal summoned, so just bear that in mind. Next up, we got 3 copies of Felice. She can only be special summoned by a card effect. And if this card is sent to the graveyard by a monster effect, you can special summon her from the graveyard back to your side of the field. So like if you use the milling effects of like Raiden and she gets sent, she can special summon herself back essentially. And also you can tribute this card, then target one monster on your opponent's one monster your opponent controls, destroy it, and then mill the top 3 cards of your deck. So yeah, definitely a great card. And then finally, 1 copy of Lumina. Yeah, actually you only are supposed to run 1 with this because Lumina does get a little clunky at times. And she's searchable through Charge of the Light Brigade anyway. So yeah, definitely only play this at 1, trust me. You could run it at 2 if you wanted to, but honestly I only recommend 1. So yeah, like Raiden is really the one you need to focus on the most. And Lumina's like just there just to be there. But she's still a great card, don't get me wrong, I like Lumina a lot. just because you can discard one card, then target one level 4 or lower Lightsworn monster in your graveyard and special summon it. But overall, I think 1 is enough for this deck. Alright, so for the separate engines, we're running 2 copies of Photon Thrasher, just because if you control no monsters, you can special summon this card for free. And it's light attribute, so you could use this towards Curious if you wanted to. And, of course, 2 copies of Fairy Tale Snow. And just know you will do a lot of banishment in this deck, so Fairy Tale Snow is definitely going to be a must. But there is a way where you can get all your banished cards back without decking out, because this deck, I've actually almost came close to decking out like a few times, but luckily I added a new addition to this deck to deal with that problem, because like literally on my first turn I was almost out of cards. But overall, like, this deck is also great because, you know, you can fill up a full board. Oh, and also for the last little thing, we have 1 Goblinberg. I would run it at 2, but I think 1 is actually just fine. Of course, if you ever want to bump it up to 2, then go for it, you know. Definitely try it out, because Goblinberg really helps us out just to get also free rank 4 place, you know. So it's just really good. Alright, we have 1 tiny zombie engine, and I do mean tiny, it's like literally just 2 cards. We got, first off, Shiranui Spirit Master. This card has a really amazing banishment effect. I don't use its first effect, but when it's banished, you can target 1 face-up card your opponent controls and pop it. So that's why I like to run Shiranui Spirit Master. So, like, you could also use him for Gold Sarcophagus material. And, like, if your opponent has, like, a problematic field spell or equip spell or anything like that, get rid of it. Heck, that actually works pretty well against skill drains too, because skill drain is still a thing, and you want to get rid of those. And then finally, to, you know, recycle our entire deck, because again, we will do a whole lot of banishment. 1 copy of Necrophase. I know it's at 2, but I think 1's just fine, just because, like, you just use it for like Gold Sarcophagus or Fairy Tale Snow. Both you and your opponent has to banish the top 5 cards of your deck, and then if it's summoned, normal summoned, you can shuffle back all banished cards, whether face up or face down, back to your deck. So that's why it's really good. And she gains 100 attack points for every banished card. So that's why Necrophase is definitely a great card to run in this deck. So I highly recommend it. And for hand traps, just Honest, because we do run quite a lot of light attribute monsters. So I figured Honest was actually not a bad choice. You could also run Ash Blossoms if you want to do more stun to your opponent, but I think Honest is also a good substitute. Or you could do Effect Veiler. Like, if you just looking to save some money, run Honest or Veiler. Alright, moving on to the spells. Of course, we got 3 copies of Charge of the Light Brigade. Again, if Overtex Quatless was milled, you can't add Evolution Pill, because, yeah, Evolution Pill, because it's an effect that requires a cost. I think from what I've heard, it has something to do with timing. Like, whenever you pay a cost, you have to let this card resolve, because the thing is, like, Overtex Quatless starts on its own chain, and the thing is, like, you have to let everything resolve, and then that's why you can't use Quatless's effect for Evolution Pill, so that's why it doesn't work. But overall, still a good card, because you want to search out your Radiant and your Lumina if you never milled it, so definitely, like, use 3 Charge of the Light Brigades. Next up, we got, of course, 3 copies, of Solar Recharge. In case if you open up with one of your Wolves or your Felices, you definitely want to get rid of them. That way you can draw 2 cards and then mill 2. So, amazing card. I definitely recommend it just to give your deck some draw power. We run 3 copies of Double Evolution Pill. You have more than enough materials, both Dinosaur and non-Dinosaur, to special summon one of your boss monsters like Tyranno and Quatless, so definitely run it at 3, and it's searchable too, so that's why it's so good. We run 2 copies of Gold Sarcophagus, because we have 3 cards that have really amazing banishment effects. One that summons itself, one that pops, and one that banishes cards. And of course, at the second standby phase, when this card is activated, you get those cards back to your hand. So, amazing card. Definitely run this at 2. And for the last spells, we got 1 copy of Twin Twister, just to deal with some back row heavy cards. 1 Foolish Burial. And of course, Monster Reborn. You could run Soul Charge. Yeah, you could run Soul Charge too. I'm still trying to find my extra copy of it, but if I do find it, I'll definitely add it in. So, like, Soul Charge is definitely a good card to consider. But yeah, but Soul Charge is really good if you're going first, because, like, if you open up with it, at least, you know, you don't have to worry about the negative effect of not entering your battle phase. Alright, so moving on to the extra deck, we got 1 copy of Curious. which just requires 3 monsters of the same attribute but of different types, but that's not an issue. That's actually real easy to bring out. And when it's link summon, you can send 1 card from your deck to the graveyard, which also works if you send Quatless, or like your Wolf or Felice, even your Fairy Tale Snow, and then you mill the top 3 cards of your deck. 1 Decode Talker, and 1 Proxy Dragon. And that's it for the links. Like, you really don't need too many link monsters in this. You're mostly focusing on XCs and Synchro as well. But as long as you get Curious or Decode Talker out, you're pretty much set. For the XCs monsters, we got 2 copies of Minerva. Detach 1 XCs material. Mill the top 3 cards of your deck, and if any of them were Lightsworns, you get to draw that many number of cards. And Minerva is generic, by the way, because it just requires 2 level 4s in general. And also, if she's destroyed by your opponent, you get to mill the top 3 cards of your deck. And for any of them that were Lightsworn monsters, you can destroy that many number of cards on your opponent's side of the field. So Minerva is really great. I definitely love Minerva. Next up, we got Bujinte Tsukiyomi. It's just there for extra draw power as well. Like, you detach 1 XC's material, discard your entire hand, a minimum of 1 card, and you get to draw 2 cards. So it's just free. This is basically your Pot of Greed. And again, just requires 1 XC's material once per turn, so really great card. And yeah, like, believe it or not, you will be using like your hands quite a lot, but that isn't really much of a hindrance. But just in case, Bujinchi Tsukiyomi is definitely a good idea to run. And then of course we got 1 Evolzar Lagia, which is your Solemn Judgment of the deck, can negate any summon, spell, or trap. Doka, which is your Solemn Strike, which negates monster effects. Of course, Baguska, which is your skill drain, your 2-turn skill drain. Number 39, Utopia, but we mainly just go straight into Utopia the Lightning. By now, everyone should know what Utopia the Lightning can do. He's just really straight up badass, and the fact there's attack points can become 5,000 when you detach 2 XC's material, and your opponent cannot react to his effect, so that's why it's so good. Alright. And finally, going into the Synchro monsters, we got 1 copy of Trishula, which is so easy to make in this deck. For board wiping purposes, Black Rose Dragon. If you notice, by now everyone already notices that I love Black Rose Dragon. It's one of my favorite dragons of all time. 1 Cyframe Lord Omega. Just because, you want to be able to, like, shorten your opponent's hands, like, over and over again. And once you already know what card he's going to have in his hand, you can keep banishing the same one over and over. And, of course, Michael. Also easy to make in this deck. But, yeah, that's pretty much it. All I got for you guys today. I hope you guys really enjoyed this deck profile. And I will catch y'all again next time.